Hi, this is Anis from Never Stop Trucking. Today we're talking about brokers. I want to tell you that I made some videos before about brokers, and my opinion about them was, I would say, just I was indifferent. It was just a necessary part of trucking industry, of freight industry actually, and you learn to live with it. But now, lately, especially in these bad market times, a lot of negative things about brokers, about freight brokers, are coming up to the surface. And just bear in mind that I don't think this way about all brokers. Some old school people who have been this game for a long time, maybe even longer than I have, especially small brokerages, like the owner is working with the trucking carriers, and the owner knows how to deal with everything, how everything works, treats everyone with respect, and generally some smaller brokerage companies. But since we mostly deal nowadays with large brokerages, this could be said about them. So there are some couple of positive things that I'm going to talk about later, but let's start with negative things. I have a small list here so I don't forget. Now, the first thing is obviously the prices. Brokers take their share, and that share sometimes is very symbolic, something small, but sometimes it can be rather large. And keeping in mind that their overhead costs are not as big as ours, I mean trucking companies, and that they don't have to work with equipment of their own, like trucks and trailers. Um, the profits that they make sometimes are not really. I'm not gonna cry, not fair, but it could be said that way, that they're not fair, and that they shouldn't be paid that much. That their cut should not be that much, and it's not just about fairness. It's about how much effort a trucking carrier puts into delivering a load and making sure that the load is being delivered, and that comes from providing a truck and trailer, and that truck and trailer cost money to buy and maintain and insure. You have to pay the driver, and there is a liability if something happens. Then you are at fault. Usually, a trucking company has to deal with it. All right, and on the other side, the broker does not invest that much time, does not carry that much of a risk, and they still sometimes get paid the same amount, sometimes even more of what the load profit is for both of them. And in my opinion, that's not realistic. It shouldn't be that way. The second thing that I want to talk about is slower communication in case of problems, because we have more people involved in this process. If you work directly with a shipper as a trucking company, then you only contact the shipper. Now, if you have a broker right there in that mixture, then the communication process is longer and more complicated. You have to talk to the broker, and the broker has to call or email their customer, whoever the customer is, and then they have to contact the shipper or the receiver. And it just adds more people to this chain, and it makes it longer, and the communication is not as clear. If the driver provides you with some kind of information, and then you provide it to the broker, and the broker provides that info to customer, and the customer provides the info to the shipper, then somewhere along the way, that information, something is not said correctly, and something is misinterpreted. So it takes longer to communicate. All right. And then now we have problem with the detention and truck order not used, the layover, things like that. It's hard to get them as a trucking company, as a driver, because the broker will a lot of times claim it, uh, claim that they're waiting for the customer to pay, even though when you book the load, the broker is paying you for the load, all right? And you're not even asking how much the broker is making, how much the broker is getting from their customers. You're just agreeing to a rate, and usually brokers have it in their contracts, in their rate confirmations and broker packets. Somewhere listed how much detention money they should provide in case of detention. And a lot of times, as a trucking carrier, you will never get that detention or layover or truck order not used because they just don't want to pay. All right. They should pay it out of their own pocket because you booked the load with them, with the broker, and they should be the ones that need to provide you with that money. But a lot of times they just say, hey, we're waiting for the customer to pay, or we will send the request to them. And if they say that, then most of the times you're probably not ever going to get that money if the broker pays right away. Like I know C.H. Robinson, usually they will send it to you right away. Whether you like C.H. Robinson or not, that is usually true for them. They will do it right away, and that's the best way to do it. And then they go after their customer. Now, in this case, we don't even know how much they're getting from their customer. Maybe they're getting more. I'm assuming they're getting more because why not? They can. And if the customer gives them more, they just give you your rate. They don't give you everything. All right. And I'm assuming also a lot of times they will get it from their customer, but they're just not going to pay to the broker. And sooner or later, these companies are going to go down. They can make all the millions and billions of dollars, but if you don't do business in an honest way, you do it this way, you want to screw over the carrier who is working with you, who you depend on, then so be it. No one is going to go under. Like my company, we're not going to shut down doors because of your $50 of detention, but it's just a nice way to do business, and it's an honest way to do business. All right. Next thing that I want to talk about is the unnecessary tracking apps and tracking departments. All right. So first, there are 4 tracking apps that I know that they use, and on top of that, there are some broker apps that they force onto your drivers. So they have MacroPoint, they have FourKites, they have Trucker Tools, and there is another one. I can't remember what was it. I have written down here, Project 44. All right, so 4 of them, these general tracking apps that a lot of brokers use, and driver has to have all of them installed. And whenever they decide to track you, they will send you a link or add the driver's phone number into it. And then some brokers have their own versions, like JB Hunt or TQL. And there's a lot of times when you have a driver that's not really into technology, or maybe older drivers who don't know how to use that, then you as a dispatcher have to assist them with that, and then they say, well, the load doesn't show up, and then the broker says, well, they're not tracking even though the driver accepts it. A lot of problems with that. And that's just something that's really not cool. A lot of drivers don't like it, and a lot of dispatchers don't like it. But they made it kind of normal. Where lately it's just like a lot of people are used to it, and they just go with it. And on top of that, they will call you. Their tracking departments will keep calling you and bothering the driver, bothering you at home or after hours. sending you emails. There's a lot of miscommunication between uh, the people that work in these companies, in these brokerages, because they have a lot of people in one group, in one team, and they don't communicate with each other. And you tell one person something, and they don't, carry on the message to the other one, and then they keep calling you again, or you tell them something important, they don't tell their coworkers. And then as far as the tracking goes, that's really annoying. So imagine they ask you to sign their load confirmation. They want to talk to the driver, and then they call the like another person calls the driver and says, "Hey, what's your ETA to the pickup?" And they tell them, and then they're like, "Oh well, yeah, call me when you get there." Yeah, sure. Like I have nothing else to do. Like I'm just gonna, I can't wait to get there to call you, and go through different options on the phone when you call them, and wait on hold, and then explain them who you are, what load number do you have, and like that you're there, and then they tell you, "Oh well, let me know when you're loaded." Okay. If you don't call them, they call after a while. Are you loaded? Yes. Oh, how many pallets do you have? What's your seal number? What's your ETA? And then you like give them all the information, and they say, send me that BOL. I'm driving. How do I send it to you? That's not my job. I'm a driver. I don't have a scanner. Well, take a picture with your phone. Well, maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't know how to. I am the drivers. They are not bureaucrats. They don't deal with paper. They drive. And then you send them the bill of lading. Let me. What's your ETA to delivery? And then you get there. When did you get there? When did you get unloaded? Were there any discrepancies? Were there any lumpers? Were there any damages? Uh, Send me the POD. And it's a lot of things that they require from a driver, and they don't pay that well, and it's annoying. So it just gets worse and worse every day. Now we have another thing where they're not available, usually after hours, early in the morning, on the weekend, on a holiday. You can't get a hold of anyone, or even if you get a hold of someone, they don't know what they're doing. They can't help you. It's some kind of after hours department, and they are not trained to do other things. They're just trained to answer the phone and write down the information. All right. Another thing is they have too many departments. You have accounting and dispatching and tracking, and it's hard to get a hold of someone that you need, because sometimes they have multiple offices in multiple cities, and sometimes these departments are not in same buildings. So it's really hard to navigate through all of that just because of one load. Maybe you have an issue with one load. You have to call several numbers and talk to several people if you want your problem resolved. Then another issue is that a lot of brokers are not paying on time. They're not paying when they're supposed to. They're not paying at all, and you can't get to them that easily. You can't get your money. And I'm gonna write something down, so I don't forget that something just came up to my mind that I wanted to talk about. And that this is usually loads will get paid, but the biggest problem is, like I said, with detention, truck order not used, and layover, that you really have to fight. And sometimes, like if you, like as a trucking company, you want to pay a driver right away or that same week for a load that they did, because you have to, and the broker will not give you detention. So if you want to invoice that load, you can't invoice it right away. You have to wait until they send you detention, and that can take a few days, maybe a few weeks. So you can't even get the money because of that detention of like $40 or $50. You have to wait to get that, and then you send detention with that invoice, and you get paid for the invoice, whether it's from factoring company or from the broker. But in the meantime, like you have to pay the driver for that load, so you don't have that money to work with. You have to wait for them. Sometimes factoring companies will let you bill it separately, like, but you have to uh, do a couple of invoices, and it's twice the work. Okay. Then a lot of brokers are rude and arrogant. When you call them, especially in markets like these, when you have bad markets, like they feel that they don't need you. They feel like there is so many trucking companies out there that they can work with, and someone will take that load. And they come up with so many regulations and so many things and stipulations that they want to force onto carriers that it really gets hard to even book a load with some of these brokers. And that comes to, like, if you're a new authority, the brokers will not work with you for first few months. Some of them will, but maybe like CH Robinson and TQL in the first month. And then after 30 days, maybe a handful will work with you as a carrier. After 3 months, after 6 months, some of them will not even work with you unless you have 1 year of active authority, sometimes even 2 years. All right, and then lately, they came up with a lot of other things that people never heard of. It's just because they can. For example, like you don't have any inspections on your truck, and then you don't have any trucks, your own trucks in your fleet, or like you don't have any paid off trucks, with the bank. You own those trucks, but you have a loan on them. You don't have any paid off trucks, which is, I have no idea where they come up with that. And then they say, well, we're not taking new carriers. We don't have time to get set up, things like that. And some of these people will be very rude when you talk to them. You have to be, like submissive and be very nice to them if you want the load. But they don't even want to talk to you, and some of them get really arrogant. They treat you like crap if you're a dispatcher and or a driver. And in my opinion, it's not a good way to do business. And that's something that I wanted to talk next, and that's brokers obviously dislike trucking authorities and drivers. And like I said, this is not all brokers, but most of these big brokerages. It's really sad that you are in some kind of industry and you work with someone and you don't like that someone just because of it's like a prejudice or stereotype, where like all trucking companies are the same, all drivers are the same. But this is your bread and butter. If you're a broker, you can't work without a trucking company and without a driver who's going to take your load. All right, who's going to deliver it? You're not going to go into the truck and go deliver that load, right? You're gonna sit in the office and like be all important. Maybe you have a degree. Maybe you're educated, and you think that you're better than these drivers and these trucking companies. And you're like, oh man, like look what these guys did. Look how stupid that guy is. Look what he did. Why are they asking? Why did they do this? Why did they not arrive on time? Why are they late? They're lying. They're crooked, and a lot of things like this. And I see and I hear that a lot from brokers, and that's not a way. Imagine you had the customers, like you have a grocery store and you have a customer that you treat that way, and you're like, oh, all your customers are bad, all of them are lying. There's a lot of fraud, and you treat them like that. Who's gonna come and buy things from you? No one. So brokers need to really change their attitude towards trucking companies and towards drivers. And then another thing is a lot of brokers treat trucking as tech industry, not as a business that's kind of like trade, kind of like old school, like you have construction or plumbing, anything that has to do with crafts. And trucking is like that. Trucking is old school. In trucking, you have to ad- kind of adapt to the way, to the old school way the trucking has to be done. But a lot of brokers trying to be innovative, and I spoke about that a few times. And they treat it as tech industry. They want to force a lot of new stuff onto you, like these apps and websites, the way you book loads, the way you invoice loads, the way you talk to people, maybe even AI or automated calls, bidding online, things like that. And they treat it that way. And in my opinion, it's wrong. Of course, there should be innovations, but something like where you talk to drivers and trucking companies and ask them first, and a lot of them ask them what they think about that. Another thing is that most brokers don't know anything about driving trucks, about transportation, about trucking, and even about the commodities that you're transporting. Imagine this: like you're working with something that you don't know anything about. Like you. I have a feeling when I talk to a lot of brokers when they tell me like what the commodities, you know, that they have no idea what that is. And I'm not. Well, it's not really necessary that you have to know, but it's really helpful. It does really help. And then like some of them don't even know geography. Like I wasn't born here. I have lived here for the past 23 years, and well, 22 years, and 21 years before that I spent outside of United States. And because I'm in this industry and I also drove, I know a lot about geography. Um, my memory is not that great. Sometimes I struggle like to think, hey, where is that city? I know that city, but I know a lot of things on the maps, a lot of major cities, uh, mid-sized towns, where they are. I have the mileage in my head usually from one point to another one, just because of experience, just because I work with it every day. It's not because I'm extra smart, but like you work with it every day, you care about it, and then you remember. And a lot of these people, maybe they're new, but like, hey, you went to school here, you had geography in school, and you work with these trucking companies with selling these loads. You don't even know where like Erie, Pennsylvania is, or Fort Wayne, Indiana. Come on. um, so in my opinion, they should know more about all that. And then another thing is that I wanted to talk about is the FMCSA requirements about broker bonds. Now, I've had few brokers that haven't been paying, some of them large sums of money, and it's hard to get after them. And I made few videos about that a long time ago, and someone was claiming, hey, you can sue them, you can go to their state or the city where they are, find a lawyer and sue them. Like, how are you gonna sue someone for like $500, for $1,000, or for $2,000? Usually they want it settled in a small court claims. I guess it depends on the state. But it's really hard to go after them for these smaller amounts of money. But it adds up, all right? For us, every dollar counts. For us, smaller trucking companies. So the bonds that they have, the broker bonds, they're required to have $75,000 by the FMCSA. Um, but what's funny is that this is not actually money that they have. Like they buy that bond, it's like $2,000 a year, or maybe even less, depends on a lot of factors. But let's say it's $2,000 a year they pay for that surety bond of worth $75,000. Okay, and officially they're covered. Like FMCSA recognizes that as as a way to get your bond and show that you have enough money to cover these invoices in case that something goes bad. All right. but like try getting that from their bond, from their insurance, from their surety bonds. Try getting that money, especially if you have a lot of claims. Something goes bad with that broker, and you have a lot of claims, and they owe a lot of money to a lot of companies. And $75,000 is really nothing if they work with thousands of carriers. All right, and they owe money to a lot of them. That's really nothing. And if you try to contact that surety bond, they want you to prove that you did that load. And even if they give you some money, it's not going to be 100%. It's going to be way less than 100% of that money. It's going to be very hard to get that money. In my opinion, FMCSA should require brokers. Okay, if it's $75,000, fine, that's fine. But get the cash. Get the cash from them and make an escrow account where FMCSA maintains that account and has oversight into that account. Or, for example, they just have to prove every month or so that broker has enough money in that escrow account, and that money can only be spent for the payables, for account payables. Okay, and the FMCSA is doing this wrong, in my opinion. The brokers will a lot of times not pay their carriers, and there should be another way of FMCSA overseeing that requirement of having that $75,000 bonds. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. I know there are a lot of brokers watching this channel, and a lot of them are favorable to what I have to say, and I know there's a lot of good people. These, like I said, especially smaller brokerages that are watching the channel, and sometimes I get good insights from them. And I didn't want to offend anyone, but I think it's been enough. Like with this market crisis that we have right now in trucking, there is a lot of things going on, and brokerage companies are not helping. They're making it worse than it is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.